the wrong one. Oh, God. What am I doing here? Okay, there we go. Wow, we're starting Saturday off with a bang, ain't we? Okay.
So
much for dope.
I know we debate pretty heavy here, but I didn't know we were going to go pretty hard on Saturday morning like that.
We should debate whether we have that introduction or not going forward. That would be a good debate.
Debate which introduction we should use. Yeah, it could be like a random thing going on. Good morning, everybody. It is the debate show, and I'm your host, BA. It is the 4th of September or October. Jeez, I'm already back in it. Hey, 4th of October. I hope everybody's doing good this morning. And of course, we're going to be debating some MLB, some NFL, and of course, college. And our first question today is going to be, was Aaron Boone being disrespectful to Chaz Grissom by not starting him game 1 of the playoff series versus the Red Sox?
Yeah,
I'll give this one to Jack.
The answer is absolutely yes. It's not so much the move in itself, but the way it was handled. All season long, Chaz Chisholm is the starting second baseman. He's not benched all season long, and he shouldn't be. The guy was an all-star. He was a 30-30 man, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases, played well in the field. He's a very emotional kid as well, very, very emotional. And, you know, he takes things hard. And all of a sudden, you game 1 of the playoffs, and you're benching him. He did nothing to be benched. And the reason he was benched was because of analytics, because they noticed against Garrett Crochet, the Red Sox starter, Ahmed Rosario, there was something like 6 for 9 against him. So Ahmed Rosario all of a sudden is going to be a better fit. But there wasn't enough of a body of work. 9 at bats, that's not enough of a body of work. That's basically 2 games. So another player had 2 successful games against this pitcher. So they feel to bench Chaz Chisholm for that game. And had it been done during the regular season at all, I would have been okay with it, but it wasn't. It comes out of nowhere. I couldn't believe it. I'm watching the game. I'm looking at the starting lineup, and I'm thinking Chaz Chisholm, who got a little bit injured slightly at the end of the year, he still didn't go on injured reserve. He still played. I'm thinking, wow, the injury must have gotten worse. He must really be hurting not to be in the lineup. And then we find out that wasn't the case. Aaron Boone got off the hook mildly, only because in the 9th inning, he put up Chisholm in the big spot, not against their starter, Garrett Crochet. He was gone against a reliever, and Chisholm flied out on the big spot. But even in that big spot, the Yankees were down 2 runs, and he may have hit the ball long enough where the run on third, if they were down 1 run, possibly would have tagged up. We're never going to know. There was no warning to Chisholm at all. Typical case of analytics. You know, you're looking at the analytics or whatever, And I'm nervous. I think you're going to now bring in Brian, an outsider, to take my place because the analytics show he talks 14 seconds less than I do and saves a little time and can help the quality of this show at the end of an hour. When you look at all the stats involved, maybe we're getting like one more viewer because of that. I mean, enough.
No, it
It
has
was
occurred.
disrespectful not starting him because it's the first time it happened. It's the biggest game of the year. He plays all year long, playoffs, game one, and now he doesn't start him without a warning beforehand.
So the definition, I mean, or just disrespect. We know what disrespect is. Disrespect, either intentionally or non-intentionally, is still disrespect. But is this considered disrespect? I just don't think it's disrespect at all. Why? Because I mean, this is a manager, Aaron Boone, that felt like he was making a chess move. I mean, it may seem disrespectful to the person that's being demoted or benched temporarily for that moment because it hurts your feelings. You think you're the best of what you do at your position. But for the most part, like you said, you mentioned why he did it. I mean, Ahmed Rosario, a right-handed batter, I believe. Yeah, a right-handed because Chisholm is a left-handed batter. Had a better track record against the pitcher that was starting, and so to me, I have no problem with someone being solid on their decision making, even if they're not right about it. This is what his job was to do, is to do what he thought was in the best interest of the team. And that's what he did. I mean, if somebody's in their feelings about the situation, that's fine. I mean, like you said, he's an emotional player, emotional guy, and he played great. He was 30 for 30, but he was injured. He had an oblique injury at that sideline summit. But for the most part, he's been a really good defender. But he made a decision. And it had no. It was nothing personal. It was nothing. I don't think it was malicious. I don't think it was a problem with Aaron Boone making that decision. Now, mind you, they lost. They lost that game, and so does it look hindsight 2020? Does it look like a bad decision? Probably. But I can respect. This is where respect comes in. I can respect Aaron Boone for making his decision and sticking solid to it, and he didn't waver because of how he thought. Whether or not he's the man for the job, I mean, that's yet to be determined. I mean, Keith thinks he's not. He thinks he should be fired. Our friend Keith. I don't know about you, Jack, but I'm going to say no. It was not.
I think he should get fired.
Thanks, Keith. Our Keith Angle, your compadre. Yeah, thinks that Aaron Boone should be fired. I disagree with that. Yeah, he shouldn't be fired. I mean, my man is doing his job, and I think, and at the end of the day, they're at the next level now. Hindsight 2020, it could have been different. Who knows? They could have won 2-0 if that move wouldn't have been made. But either way, I don't think it was a disrespectful decision. I think, again, I'm in management. Sometimes you have to make decisions that are not popular, that are not going to be conducive, or is conducive for the better of your team in the long term. But in the short term, optically, it may not look like you're making the right decision. And I think ultimately he did what he felt was right for their team, and that was it. And it was no disrespect at all.
Well, the Yankees do things based on analytics. So I get the feeling this was an organizational decision, and Aaron Boone is the front man. So he kind of takes the hit. And for everyone who wants to replace Aaron Boone as manager, the next guy who's the manager is going to have to do things according to analytics the same way. And as far as Chisholm maybe being a little hurt to fact into it, look what he did the very next night. He saved the game for the Yankees, making a sensational play in the field, scoring from first base, and the ball hit down the line for the winning run. And so he wasn't hurt to any point what impaired him at all. I mean, because we saw that defensively and on the base paths as well. But maybe it should be said, was the Yankee hierarchy being disrespectful with that decision. Maybe Boone was, maybe, I won't say told, but given the analytics saying this is what we would recommend, and Boone could have overruled them and said, Chaz is my guy. But then you're putting yourself in the hot seat because if it doesn't succeed, the organization holds you accountable. But and if it doesn't succeed because you listen to them, they give you a pass. They understand they have a manager working along with them. And Boone's a big believer in analytics. Let's make that clear. He really believes in all this stuff. And it's stuff to believe in to a large degree. There was one move earlier I want to throw by you guys quickly that I was considering myself. If I like to play manager. When Aaron Judge this past summer came off injured reserve, he was struggling for a while. And during that time, for 2-3 weeks, Giancarlo Stanton was arguably the best hitter in baseball. Giancarlo Stanton was off the rails. That's how great he was. So as soon as Judge was ready to come back, Judge had the DH in the beginning, and that's Stanton's position for the most part, DHing. And it crossed my mind, the way Stanton is hitting, do you leave Judge on the bench once in a while? Because at that exact moment for a couple of weeks, Stanton was better than Judge. But this is Aaron Judge. How do you do that? You know, what kind of message are you sending? So that's why you don't do it and you start Judge regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a little different because, I mean, isn't Carlos Stanton a very streaky hitter?
He was streaky, amazingly good streaky at that time.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I guess I would lean toward making sure, like you said, Aaron Judge is happy. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
I would definitely make sure.
It has to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant with Chaz Chisholm, too. You might lose a player. Just very quickly, I don't need to spend too much time. David Ortiz, in his book, he was struggling at one point in his career as the DH. He was terrible that year, terrible. And Terry Francona pinch hit for him. He never forgave Francona for doing that. He said it. Like Francona would actually pinch hit for me, lose faith in me. But he was going so bad. And then he had a resurgence after that. But the point is, you make a move like that, you wonder, is it going to stick with Chaz Chisholm long term?
Yeah.
And I again, oh, sorry, go ahead, B. Go ahead.
Any manager that's worth their salt in any professional sport or in any leadership, they got to make hard decisions. And I'm sure it was a hard decision for him to sit down Chaz Grissom in the first game. But at the same time, they're trying to win a game. And maybe they thought that was the best way to do it. Now they didn't win, but you're going to be 50-50 either way. It's like people out there putting other people's lives on the line when they're leaders. I mean, you have to make those decisions every day, and it's not as detrimental as a chief in a police squad, but at the same time, you still have to make those decisions, whether the person gets PO'd or not. That's just part of the I think fans put more into it than what actually is what it is. I think the players do understand that to a point. I think people just blow it out. The media, the fans, they blow it out of proportion because, oh, if that was me, dude, it ain't you. So sit down somewhere. These managers got to make these calls. So it's playoff baseball now. It's serious. Not that it wasn't serious before, but it's more serious because you're in the playoffs. Let the man do his job. Go ahead, James. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that, yeah, that's he did respond kind of out of pocket a little bit in regards to Chaz Chisholm. And so and it was kind of immature how he responded, but at the same time, I could see why. I mean, you're like you said, Jack, he's probably hurt by the situation and thought it kind of bruises the ego a little bit. But with that said, again, I just think that I have respect for anyone that makes a decision that's difficult that he may think is best for the team in the long term. And so I think that's what he did.
And
Yeah,
Reggie
Joey.
Jackson was sat before the Game 5, the deciding game against the Kansas City Royals in 1977 to see who was going to go to the World Series. But Billy Martin didn't like Reggie Jackson. But he was looking for an excuse in a way. But Reggie Jackson had a hard time hitting Paul Splitoff, okay, supposedly. But when you have a superstar like Reggie Jackson, you don't sit him down. Reggie Jackson eventually got in the game to pinch hit. He got a big RBI single in that game. But certain moves, players aren't going to make. I mean, like we said, Aaron Judge, no matter what the analytics say Aaron Judge is doing against another pitcher, he could be 0 for 20 against another pitcher, and another player could be 10 for 20 against that pitcher. You're not going to sit Aaron Judge down.
I mean, again,
yeah, we could keep beating this.
Players can be as upset as they want, but they make enough money to when they go home at night, they'll be fine because they're going to go home to their big mansions and driving their fancy cars to them. So I'm not apologetic to them. You know, it is what it is. This is the profession you're in. Get over it.
By the way, if the Yankees do win the World Series, Keith Engel, if he was in charge, he would call Boone into the office and offer him a 1-year extension. He'd give him like a 20% raise, a 1-year extension. You know, Bruce Bochy, the Texas Ranger manager, they won the World Series 2 years ago. He just got fired. That just shows you how fickle everything is. And Bochy won 3 World Series as manager of the Giants. 4-time World Series champion as the manager. Just 2 years ago, the Rangers win the World Series. That should give him a gold pass for a decade, really.
Okay. So speaking of, you mentioned fickle. That should go prior to our next question, B. Yeah.
Yep. So is Notre Dame still the university most associated with college football? James, I'll get you. I'll start off on that one.
And this is what I meant by fickle. I knew you were going to go into college, and we're going to go into Notre Dame. So I would have to say no. I don't believe that they are still the the university most associated with college football. I think that Notre Dame was huge because of, in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, because quite frankly, they were mostly the internet. Nationally, they were the only team on TV. They were the only team that showed up that everybody watched. The whole United States was watching was Notre Dame. And I was watching. I loved in the 80s. I love Notre Dame. And you're sorry, B. I know you're a Michigan fan there, but yeah. But I really like Notre Dame as well. But I was a kid. I grew up, and it was the persona. It was the image. I think it was just the perceived wholesomeness of that particular school. Obviously, you can bring up the documentary Catholics versus Convicts. They were meant to be perceived as the good guys. You know, everybody likes to, like in wrestling, everybody likes a baby face. Nobody likes a heel, you know? And I think that perception was there for Notre Dame. And so I think things change because what they won, once every 11 years, they won a championship, 66, 77, and 88. Respectively, if you look at that. And that other teams, the parity started coming in. And then when you look at in the late 2000s, Nick Saban and Alabama, teams like that, that's when winning changed everything. Winning is what is most associated with college football. NIL now is what's associated with college football. How that changes things for multiple teams. And I just think that if you don't win, like you just mentioned, when you said, Jack, what have you done for me lately? If you don't win, you're not what's most associated with college football now. It's what have you done? And so, we can look back. I think the most relevant team, the latest one was Alabama. But now you're looking at Kalen DeBoer. He was already on the hot seat. He was already on a hot seat, and nobody's really talking about Alabama as being that big power anymore because Nick Saban's not there. You can even go back a little bit talking about Clemson and Ohio State, those teams, and Michigan. Those are the teams that were like pretty relevant and associated with college football right now because again, it's about winning. It's not, and Notre Dame hasn't been winning in a long time. And I know people still love them. There's still a huge fan base. I know Keith Engel's a big time Notre Dame. Well, he was. He liked Notre Dame, but I know he likes Miami. But I think the biggest thing is that I don't think people look at them through the same lens that they did anymore. Not like they did in those past decades. It's not the same. And so I would say that I don't think it's again one particular team that's associated with college football as a representation. It's just that again, winning and offensive scoring point, a whole bunch of points. It's perception and winning. And it's too hard to now with NIL. I don't think there'll ever be a dynasty anymore. I don't think you're going to see a dynasty anymore ever again. Not like Alabama when they won all those championships last. It won't happen. And so there'll be again. I can't pick a specific team. I'm gonna cut this off. I can't pick a specific team because I think that winning is most associated with college football.
James, if we were keeping stats, you fumbled about 3 times. I mean, it was fun. But I'll give you a simple answer. The theme song, no one knows any other theme song but the Notre Dame theme.
Not true. I disagree with that. Totally not true.
I'm not talking about the hardcore football fan who takes college football very seriously because they had their team anyway. They never built into the Notre Dame hype at all. I'm talking about the average person, the average sports fan. You ask them which is the most famous college football team, they'll say Notre Dame. It goes from Lew Rockne, it goes to the Rudy movie. I'm not talking about winning. I'm not talking about the best programs. I'm talking about brand. Just same way, if you go to Europe and you say, well, which team is more famous, the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys? You and Brian will probably say, oh, the Philadelphia Eagles, they got in 2 to 3 last Super Bowls. They're the defending champions. It's the brand. The Raider brand is even popular in the NFL, and they have one of the worst teams. It's all, and in baseball, it's the Yankee brand that's number 1. So who's the most famous, who's the most high impact baseball team in the world as far as notoriety goes? It's the New York Yankees because of the brand involved. I mean, everyone knows the Yankees, and it's that way in college football. It's still Notre Dame, like it or not, because it's a famous name. I understand all the winning Alabama did, and you could say Alabama's closed the gap substantially, and maybe they were close second. But when push comes to shove, the Notre Dame name is magic. Look, in the NBA, there are 2 names that are going to stand out. It's the Lakers and the Celtics. Maybe the Lakers finally overtook the Celtics. The Celtics were the brand all those years. They were winning, the Bill Russell years, and then later on with Larry Bird. But I think the Lakers eventually overtook them on the brand. You see, the Laker brand is a little stronger than the Celtic brand now. Is the Alabama brand stronger than Notre Dame? If someone has to walk around with a jacket, they're more likely to have a Notre Dame jacket on than an Alabama jacket.
From 1966, it'll be somebody that wore it back then. I mean, these kids don't do history. Kids don't look at history anymore. They look at what's in their face and what's now and what's instant. And Alabama was the team that was instant. I'm just telling you, there's no way the brand of Notre Dame is either you're a fan, someone who used to be a fan of and knows the championships of 66, 77, and 88. But now It's what have you done for me lately? And I think the most latest one would be Alabama to have had sustained success. And so it would be, yes, I agree with you about Dallas. Yes. It's just for whatever reason, Dallas is just in the minds of everybody. But I think it's because Jerry Jones always puts himself in the forefront and he always has drama there and people love drama. So of course they're going to get people to draw in. There's no drama in Notre Dame. There's no drama in South Bend. It's just, it's kind of boring now. That's just not what it was anymore. This is, I mean, I agree that they're trying to find some relevance now again, but there's no way I'm fumbling it. I scored a couple of touchdowns here, sir. I'm throwing some passes at you,
Watch the
darts. There's
Rudy
no
movie. People still watch the Rudy movie.
Joe Namath just claimed that a couple of years ago, saying there was no such thing as. I mean, yes, he was there. He didn't play. There was no janitor.
No, it's somewhat fictional to an extent. I'll agree with that. As far as what actually, I mean, he did get in for play at the end, you know. But
It was. Look, it was. I enjoyed the movie. It was great, and that was a great story. But I guarantee you, a lot of these kids aren't watching that now. I ask kids all the time about old movies. They like, what? What is that? It makes me feel old to even say, like, wow, you don't know what this is? No, a lot of people don't know Notre Dame's lore. They don't know the history of it. Most people, that's the problem, I think. If people were historians, then yes, maybe I would give you a benefit of the doubt with Notre Dame. But people, they only look at what's in front of their face now. And the most relevant team that's close enough that is beginning, that's probably going to fade anyway at some point, is Alabama. And I mean, no one's going to even remember almost. I mean, Michigan won a championship a couple years ago, and LSU won in 2019. Nobody's talking about none of that. It's about what you did, what you're doing now. And like I said, the most dominant reign would be Alabama. But yeah, I can't Notre Dame. There's no way.
Well, I just think that Notre Dame, they have faded as far as a brand. They used to be back in the 90s, late 80s. They used to be Michigan and Notre Dame used to be 1-2 and wins in college football. Notre Dame has moved all the way down to 5th place with Alabama and Ohio State and Texas moving up above them. It's just to the effect. I understand what you're saying about branding, Jack, but nowadays people are more attention directed. So if one team is doing good, it's in any sport. Right now, we're looking at the Yankees and the Dodgers, right? If they go all the way, I mean, last year was the Yankees and the Dodgers. So people are focused on that. You know, we as fans and we as people in the sports industry, we look at the Tigers and the Mariners, but it's really focused on the Dodgers and the Yankees. And in professional football, you're absolutely correct. Dallas is one of those brands that just stays there because Jerry Jones makes sure it's in your face every 5 seconds. So yeah, and Pittsburgh isn't the team that used to be. Their brand is kind of fading a little bit too. I mean, these are big, these are big teams that, because of especially in college, the NIL is basically crushing all that right now. It's like, it's just basically whoever is a favorite to go in there. It doesn't have any history behind it. There's no, it's not like college coaches are going to people's houses anymore in trying to get these recruits, and there's nothing in that no more. All that's faded away with the NIL. So, like I said, fans are just – I think Notre Dame is still considered a football school. When people say Notre Dame, people think football. They're not thinking basketball, hockey, or any of that stuff. They're thinking football. I get that. But as far as they're just fading slightly. And as far as a fight song is concerned, if nobody knows Michigan's fight song before they know Notre Dame's fight song, there's a problem. Because Michigan's fight song is basically in everybody. Even in the SEC, people know Michigan's fight song. So, I mean, it's not so much Notre Dame. But I could say that's just be a case for any one of these years. Notre Dame does have an interesting fight song, but hell, Army does too. So,
but very, very quickly, you make a good point. It's about brand. Take Major League Baseball. If the Tigers are going to play the Milwaukee Brewers in the World Series, the average baseball fan, they're not going to watch that much of the game because there's so much to do. But if the Yankees are playing the Dodgers, they're going to tune in for a much longer period of time because of the brand. Yankees and Dodgers, it's kind of like a magical name. Even last night, the WNBA finals are taking place. I watched very little of it. Now, if it was Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese, their, respective teams, I'm more likely to watch it because of the brand goes up, the name players, the drama, and all that involved. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like, the brand name does attract people who are not fans of that team, whether they want to watch the game or not.
The WNBA is not really a brand, a highly branded sport either, and unfortunately, and they need to do a better job in branding them. They got to get something stirring in that league. But anyway, that's for another topic. Let's see. We have, which current backup NFL quarterback is most likely to be a full-time starter by next season? Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, keep in mind, a couple of quarterbacks are not eligible to be named anymore, even though, knowing James, he'll try to slip them in there, but he'll be offside. Jackson Dart is no longer eligible. He's the starter. Dylan Gabriel is no longer eligible. He's the starter. Okay? And if a player is injured, a quarterback, he's still the starter. That's why I'm going to say Mac Jones. Brock Purdy is still the 49ers starter. So Mac Jones is only going to be the starter for a short period of time unless he takes over the position. And I kind of feel that's what's going to happen because the 49ers are off to a surprisingly good start. They pulled the heck out of me. They're 4-1. Imagine they won that game against Jacksonville, which they were fully capable of doing it. They've been astonishing 5-0. But one of the things, too, the 49ers really liked Mac Jones a lot coming out of Alabama in the draft. And he was projected to go to them all along, but somehow they veered off to Trey Lance. It was a tough decision for them. It turned out to be a mistake. Mac Jones went to New England, then he went to Jacksonville as a backup, but they eventually got their man, the quarterback. They like to beat Brock Purdy's backup. And I know Brock Purdy signed a big deal, but if the 49ers play really well the rest of the year, and even if they make the playoffs, even they get eliminated, Mac Jones continues to play really well, I just think he's going to be their starter next year. They might say, well, we're going to have a quarterback competition. I know Brock Purdy's getting paid a lot of money, but there's some way you could work around that. Maybe another team is going to want Brock Purdy and the Niners are going to take somewhat of a financial hit because they won't have to pay Mac Jones a great sum of money next year. But I get that feeling that Kyle Shanahan's in love with Mac Jones, and they've got a problem going forward. And of all the backup positions, he's the one most likely to replace the incumbent. And I understand there are other quarterback positions. I'm only going to name one because I don't want to steal James's thunder, who I would think James might name. And let me say it now, and then James can, make his case. And take a Carson Wentz. The Vikings are too heavily invested in J.J. McCarthy to just announce, Carson Wentz is our starter next year, case closed. With any quarterback, backup quarterback, if he takes over and his team wins the Super Bowl, they got to stick with him. Let's be honest. If Sam Darnold had led the Vikings to a Super Bowl victory and he was Super Bowl MVP, he would be the Viking quarterback this year. I can't imagine them letting him go. But I think it's going to be Mac Jones is going to be the most likely of all the backups. Most likely is the question. he'll be the 49ers starter next year.
So I like that pick. I like Mac Jones being the starter next season because he has shown that, look, I can still play the game. Maybe I was just in a couple of bad situations and that just, wasn't who I was. So I am a honest person in regards to that. Yeah, I call a spade, and he looks like he's a really good quarterback. He's in a good system. He's in a good system. It's just where Brock Purdy is in a good system. But there is no way that Mac Jones he's going to be a starter somewhere else. There's no way that you're in the bind where you're buying it's just $250 million or whatever it is to let and consider. I've heard the players say that they gravitated to him when he became a leader in Brock Purdy. There's no way you're going to just throw him away. You're not going to do that. And I think that's their guy going forward. But I think Mac Jones will be the starter somewhere else. But my pick, who I would pick to be a full-time starter, and he's no longer a starter anymore, I'm going to say Russell Wilson. I'm still going to have a belief that some team's going to take a pull on him. They're going to pull the trigger on him because he has the experience.
Let me cut in. The question was that he doesn't have to be a starter for his team necessarily. He's on now to back up, be a starter anywhere. Is that what I guess that's what you're referring to, because Wilson.
Right.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
With Purdy, with Mac Jones, well, he'll be a starter somewhere else, but not with the Niners. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't think he'll take the place there, but I think because of what he's done, he deserves the opportunity to be a starter somewhere else. With that said, I looked at a couple of names as well. I thought Kirk Cousins will have an opportunity to be a starter somewhere, but of all the players, I just think Russell Wilson, he's a free agent next year. He's not going to be owed any money. He had a 1-year contract. Kirk Cousins is going to be on the hook for $10 million. So Atlanta's going to cover that, or some other team's going to pay that. And he's a little bit older. I just think that Russell Wilson still has an opportunity to go play somewhere else because you have someone that has stripes on the wall, like him and Kirk Cousins. They both have stripes on the wall, and they're going to play somewhere. They're going to play somewhere if it's not in their respective teams. I think going forward, Jackson Dart is the guy, for better or worse. He's going to play and be the starter for New York, and that was what was going to happen anyway. When you drafted him, you knew that was at some point that was going to happen. But it's now. It's the Jackson Dart show. It begins now, and so I just think, and I don't think Jameis Winston is going to be a starter anymore. His show has hit the road. But the guy that has 10 Pro Bowls and over 40,000 plus yards and threw for 400 plus yards in the game. I just think that he's gonna have an opportunity to play somewhere else.
You're better than this, James. You're better than this. Come on. You're too talented, James, to come up with a selection like Russell Wilson. Come on. You're too smart for this. Give me a break. Come on. I thought you'd say Carson Wentz after all, and then shame on me for being offside mentioning his name. Russell Wilson is not starting anywhere except if he has any small chance. And I know you're going to cringe, and I don't mean it as a dig. It would be for the New Orleans Saints. But that's not going to happen even with the Saints. They're either going to draft a quarterback or go with Rattler Shuck. They're not going to go with Russell Wilson. He's not. I'm not talking about, James, I'm not talking about this scenario. Russell Wilson or any other quarterback, he goes somewhere else as a backup, and he gets in because of an injury suddenly. He's starting. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
I know what you mean.
Merit. Right, exactly. And based on that, Russell Wilson has failed in his last 3 stops as a starter. Denver, Pittsburgh, and the Giants. Maybe failed is the wrong word. It hasn't worked out. Let me put it another way. I don't see any team that would actually start him.
There's some bad teams out there. Yes, there's some quarterback needy and bad teams out there.
Brian would know this better than I would. Unless it's my Jets, it doesn't work out with Justin Fields, and I wouldn't put it past Aaron Glenn to dust off Russell Wilson. That's always a possibility.
Yes, and now you have a conundrum because those two guys were played in the same team twice. If that happens, so I just
Wow.
think, yeah, I still think, but again, Kirk Cousins is a strong possibility as well. That was my 1B
Kirk is
player, but
gassed out. He's got nothing left.
that's not true. Totally not true. I just think that they drafted a quarterback before he even played it down. So that's their guy. That's and Michael Penix Jr. And so you got to go forward with him. And it was it a silly decision? I think probably. Yeah, and they realized that Michael Penix Jr. is an older quarterback. He's already close to 30 already. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
What
he's
is it?
not close to 30. He's more
He's
like
27. He's 27 or
27
something like.
around
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
27, 28. That's close enough. Usually, when you're coming into the league, you're under 25. So my point in saying that is that yeah, they got to try. They got to kick the tires, and see what the tread is like instantly. Now you need to go ahead and do it. And so Kirk Cousins is out of Atlanta. He's not going to be there, and he'll be owed $10 million. So, and he still has some tread left as well. I think. Again, this is a guy that threw for 500 yards before he got hurt against Tampa Bay, and they won that game.
He got benched for Michael Penix because he was awful.
He got hurt, but he was hurt. He was playing hurt because he thought that he was going to lose his job to the up and coming quarterback. So he kept playing, which he shouldn't have done, but he did anyway. But he was hurt.
Yeah, now he's 100% better. Just waiting for that opportunity to go to a team that'll use him as a starter. I think that would be fine.
But,
Minnesota's whole situation is screwed up too. But I Wentz to be a starter on another team right now, no. I don't think he'll be a starter. I think JJ's going to come back and play some downs. Wentz isn't showing me that he can be a starter. He's just showing me he's a capable backup right now. And let's not even get into the fact that the Cleveland Browns, they got 200 quarterbacks there. Is Watson going to start next year?
Will Watson have a job anywhere? That's my concern for him.
Right.
No.
Question.
I think he absolutely deserves to be in the NFL. But will teams, because of his situation off the field, they don't want to know from it, and it's not worth it. If he could be the old Deshaun Watson, who was an outstanding quarterback, a number of teams would grab him, but no one believes that's going to be the case. So I think Cleveland is eventually going to part ways with him, and he's not even going to be on the practice squad of another team. That's my feeling.
Yeah, the Achilles injury is the Achilles injury was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So that he's got a big hill to climb in order to be either a viable starter or even a backup. Unfortunately, I want him to play.
If he didn't have the off the field issues, he absolutely would get a job as a backup, and he'd be in a position to start at some point. Going forward.
I just think that his time has kind of come and gone. He's probably going to be better used as a backup because when he did have the opportunity to play, and I realize it's Cleveland. That goes without saying, but he just was not good. In the time that he got to play, he just wasn't good.
I think a lot of it might have been mentally. That might have been mental. I think.
When is the mental going to change? That's the thing.
I agree.
And
I agree.
And then he's got an Achilles he's got to come back from. And then then we're going to have the whole situation all over again in Cleveland about what quarterbacks they're going to keep. Obviously, Flacco probably will not be there anymore. But then they got Gabriel. Depending on how Gabriel finishes this season, I'm pretty sure they're going to probably go to him as a starting quarterback from now on. And you got Shedeur Sanders. It's a mess in Cleveland. And any one of those quarterbacks, and Flacco could still be a viable starter on somebody's team. He's not a terrible quarterback, but he's just old. That's the thing. His body don't move the same way anymore.
I don't want to, this is a segue into the next question.
Mhm.
But I said it at the beginning of the year. It was a complete waste of time for Cleveland to bring Flacco in and to start him. They were wasting their time. There's no
Or buying it.
upside to spending time with him like that. They should have played one of their rookies, Gabriel, and they should have tried to get Dylan Gabriel ready for game one immediately because they preferred him over Shedeur Sanders. It was obvious. Yeah. Maybe let's go on to the next question because that's a segue in.
Yeah, it's a segue into this question
right,
here.
Exactly.
Did Shedeur Sanders deserve the criticism heaped on him for jokingly giving the media the silent treatment when he heard Dylan Gabriel should be starting this week? Go ahead, Jack.
No, I mean, he didn't deserve any of the criticism. What did he do wrong? Players allowed to joke and laugh and to have fun. And by him giving the silent treatment, he was just kind of like having fun. He knows anything that's going to come out of his mouth, he's going to get criticized unless you want him to be a statue. Oh, gee, we're a team. I'm going to be rooting for Dylan and all my teammates to do well. Anything I could do to support him. If my number gets called, I'll be ready. But I hope the case is that Dylan plays great and I'm going to help him in any way I can. And try to be as encouraging and try to be a good teammate. That's the party line. No, I mean, does any player feel that way? I'm not saying he's rooting for Dylan Gabriel to mess up. No backup is outwardly rooting for his teammate to mess up. But you want to know the truth of the matter is they're neutral. They're detached from the situation, even though it's their teammate. They're thinking if he plays well, fine. If he doesn't, great, because it gives me the chance to get in there. And that's human nature. That's human nature. But you can't say that. And, Shedeur Sanders is waiting for his chance. He's not thinking in terms, oh, I hope Dylan messes up. He just wants his chance. The owner, Jimmy Haslett, said something very revealing this week that slipped under the radar, the Cleveland Brown owner. He said, we have 2 number 1 draft picks next year. I want both our rookie quarterbacks to play this year so we know what we got. Very revealing. Shedeur Sanders is being forced on Kevin Stefanski. He's being forced on the head coach of the Browns. But the point is, Shedeur Sanders is going to get to start at some point by the end of the year, unless Cleveland makes a crazy playoff run on the Dylan Gabriel where they have to keep playing him. It might be only one game. I get the feeling it's only going to be one game, the last game of the year, but Shedeur Sanders is going to start. If he doesn't play well, it gives them an excuse to move on from him. But if he does play well, Cleveland is under pressure. Maybe they don't draft a quarterback next year, and Sanders is now number 2 on the depth chart. But in any event, Shedeur Sanders reportedly responded to Rex Ryan ripping into him, according to Adam Schefter. So Sanders was quiet. He's a fun-loving kid. He likes to joke around and have fun by not saying anything. He was having fun with the media there. I mean, let's not overreact to everything that goes on because he's not, oh, golly, gee whiz, I'm with my teammates all the way.
Now, I want to start with going back to what you said about the owner, Jimmy Haslett, saying that he wants the opportunity for both his rookie quarterbacks to play. That, to me, tells me that he's backtracking from what he said, and he said he had no decision-making in drafting Shedeur Sanders. And I think that's a bunch of malarkey. I think that's just crap. He definitely did. If he wants them both to play, I'll have to agree with you, Jack, in saying that he clearly had some, I forgot what you said, but in regards to that, he definitely had something to do with drafting the quarterback and is putting his coach and his GM in a bind. And so with that said, going back to what Rex Ryan said, I have a bit of a problem with what Rex Ryan said, but I mean, he has his opinion. You're allowed to say it. And I just think that I don't have a problem with what Shador said. I don't have a problem with what he said either. I just think that if you feel confident and you think that you can play this game, who wouldn't want a quarterback to say that I should be able to play the game? I think a lot of people don't view him as a starter in this league, in that realm. And some of those people don't view Shador Sanders as a starter. And so they believe that if you, the third string quarterback, you shouldn't garner any attention, which I agree. You shouldn't garner any attention to you, but it's not his fault because people still come to him asking questions. What other third string quarterback do you know that the media is going to asking questions and trying to get something out of him that's going to be a soundbite? Nobody. There's nobody. This because the last name Sanders is attached to him. His father's name is Dion. He's going to get the attention. It's just what it is. And I think that's partly why he got drafted in the 5th round, because I don't think anybody wanted that attention if they didn't want him as a starting quarterback. And so with that said, I think that he deserves some of the criticism with Shador Sanders, because pantomiming is just, it almost seems childish. It almost seems like you're okay. You're bigger than that. You got a lot of people coming up against you. You got the whole league seems like it's going against you, mainly because of your name. But you got to, I mean, I get being fun loving, but you got to understand, I understand how you responded to the situation. It just needs to be, I'm speaking hindsight 2020. I'm not in the situation, but if it were me, I'd be like, no comment, or I'm just here to support my team. Just leave it at that. Because you know what's going to happen. You know what's coming your way. And I think the pantomime thing is just like, again, you can look at it as a childish act. And he's young. And I give him a pass on that. But I mean, it is a childish act. And I agree with what some of the pundits say. By you behaving like that, your next stop to another team, is it hindered because of that? Is it hindered because no one wants to deal with that? They look at, okay, he's not mature yet. Which I disagree. I think he's mature, but I think he's still young. He's 21, 22, or whatever his age is. I think it's somewhere around there. He's still young.
Confident. He is very confident in his ability.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Quarterback to have that confidence.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I totally agree. I've just said that. Yeah, I think he should have that confidence. But the problem is he's not in the position to be anywhere close to being the starter. They made Joe Flacco the number 2 after they moved Dillon Gabriel up. So it's clear that Cleveland doesn't want him in the building, not Jimmy Haslam, but the coaching level. They don't want him there. They want to, and that's why they kept him at third string. If that was the case, thanks, Richard, he would have been number 2. He would have moved up number 2. So my thing is, be the consummate professional and get yourself out of there. Get yourself out of Cleveland, because there's already a crap show anyway.
Well, he can't get himself out of there. That's not going to happen. All he could do is stay put, and they're not going to cut him until he plays at some point and plays poorly. So the Brown coaching staff has a dilemma. They can't leave him as is, not playing the whole year, and then cut him next year. The moment of truth is going to arrive. That's why I think it's only going to be one game at the end of the year with Cleveland out of it. They throw him in there, and if he lights it up and plays great, the Cleveland fan base is going to go crazy. Now they're going to say, okay, he's going to compete with Gabriel next year for the starting job in training camp. You're going to get that scenario, and you're just going to get more drama. I mean, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, once I'm out of this thing, play Shador Sanders. If he plays poorly, that means you could move on from him. You don't have the headache anymore. If he plays well, that's great. That's what you want in a quarterback. But we all know they want the Cleveland coaching staff, Dillon Gabriel, to win the job. We all know that. And that's a toxic situation.
Yeah, I think that Shador, I think this is just Cleveland making a bad decision, and they drafted him hoping that, because of his name. And I think that's the reason why the GM
on them, James agree on that.
Yeah, they drafted him because of his name, so they can get some kind of media attention. because Dallas does the same kind of thing. They just don't do it like Cleveland does. Cleveland just Cleveland. But anyway, Shedeur Sanders is probably a very good, from what we see, he's a capable quarterback. What happens if he comes into this situation? And I think this is what management is afraid of right now. Management being Stefanski. What if he goes out there and outshines his pick, Gabriel? Why do you think he's third on the depth chart? He should automatically be second. Flacco shouldn't even be in this conversation.
No. Let me cut in. Look what the Giants did with Russell Wilson when they put him behind Jackson Dart. They made him the primary backup. These veterans, you don't want to insult them by moving them all the way down to third. I understand at least their reasoning.
That's a different situation. That's a whole totally different situation, though. That's a different situation than what Cleveland has. Cleveland has 2 rookies on their roster. They automatically they said it. You said it. They want to play both those rookies. Now, I'm sure they can bring the third string guy up there, but he's usually the guy that's written off the game. There's only 2 starters at quarterback when the game starts. And the third guy is just like, the emergency quarterback, but he's not on the playlist. So for this to work, they got to put Flacco in QB3 at some point. I don't care about all that. Flacco he's a veteran that needs to be retiring pretty soon anyway. They need to go for the future. If Cleveland is doing this right, and I think this is the reason why Stefanski did this, because he doesn't want Shedeur Sanders to play. I think he sees what Shedeur Sanders is, and he thinks he might be even better than Dylan Gabriel. I'm just going by assumption. And this is the reason why he's kind of hog-tying Shedeur right now. And see, this is going to be a thing that Haslett and Stefanski are going to be butting heads on for a while.
Do you think it's personal with Kevin Stefanski?
I don't think it's personal for Shedeur. I think it's personal between him and Haslett. I think that's the thing. I think they're bumping heads. He's like, you went behind my back and told me I can pick my quarterback, but then you go and say, get Shedeur Sanders? Excuse me, you don't trust my judgment in getting a quarterback, and now you want to force this guy on me.
And look, I want to say this before we go. In regards to Jimmy Haslett, him showing his hand about wanting both quarterbacks to play, to me, he has no faith in the team and in the direction they're going right now. For him to say that means he doesn't think Dylan Gabriel is all that great. And if Dylan Gabriel plays great, if Stefanski can get the best out of him, they're winning, you're not going to see Shedeur Sanders play. But to me, Jimmy Haslett must be thinking, this is a wash. We're at the end. Let's see how they play. I'm probably going to clean house after this. Get rid of the coach. Draft. You got 2 first-round draft picks, like Jack said. I'm probably going to draft a quarterback, which I don't think there's a great pool anyway coming. So I don't know what he's looking at to be drafting. So I just think that he doesn't have faith in Stefanski and the offense, the Browns offense right now. So for him to say that he wants both to play, I didn't hear that, but I just heard it from you, Jack.
Yeah, Stefanski is probably on a hot seat right now. I'm just saying with Haslett. I think that if he doesn't do what he wants him to do, this is going to be, like what I'm saying, they're going to be bumping heads this whole season. This is the reason why I feel that Stefanski put Shedeur Sanders in at QB3.
The owner's entitled to get involved, though. As long as you're not meddling too much. Like, for example, John Mara with Saquon Barkley. He could have told Joan Shive, Brian DePaul, I want Saquon Barkley to be a career Giant, work a deal out with him. Okay, unless he's being unreasonable during contract negotiations, work it out. I want him to be here. That's the way it goes. And he's the owner. You could force your hand certain times.
Yeah. Well, on that note, gentlemen, it has been pretty good debates, and we will see you tomorrow morning on the Big Football Show with myself, Jack Hirsch, James Martin, and of course Keith Engel. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Remember, there's a lot of sports to watch this weekend. It's great. It's a great weekend. MLB baseball playoffs. Of course, you got your college football and your professional football. So everybody have an enjoyable weekend. Sayonara.